Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Blue Line Blast podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, alongside Matthew Blittner. Guys, the Stanley Cup Final is here. One of us, this guy next to me, said Colorado was going to be gone in the conference final. Absolutely correct. The other guy, hedged bets. That's okay. Matthew, what's going on, buddy?
It's great to be here, Jim, but as much as you're giving me props and putting yourself down, you also have to give you props and put me down because you're the one who thought that Carolina was going to make it through the East, and I said that either Buffalo or Montreal would take out Carolina, so...
All right, so we're even on everything then. Everything's a wash then, right? I guess so. I guess everything's a wash. No, but guys, you got to be following on because, look, you got to be following us because, look, we're ahead of the game on a lot of things. We talked about a President's Trophy curse. You look at the numbers back it up even in the salary cap ever since they went to this new format. And you go back to the full season, it's crazy to think that no President's Trophy team has made, let alone made the final, ever win a Stanley Cup. It's unbelievable. And now Colorado's out, Montreal's out, and the Carolina Hurricanes take on the Vegas Golden Knights. It's a matchup of two very, very similar teams and two teams that play like their coach. They really do. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And while they are both tenacious teams, I think that Vegas is distinctly more skilled, and I don't mean from a flashy skill standpoint. You know, they're not the ones going around trying to, do Michigan goals and stuff like that. That's not. First of all, can you imagine if one of the Vegas players tried that in the Stanley Cup Final?
Tortorella, it'd be on a bench. He'd be plastered to the bench.
Tortorella would be arrested for on ice. Like
there'd be muggings. There would be some muggings, felonies, misdemeanors. Yeah, there'd be some bad things.
But Vegas is definitely more skilled overall than Carolina. But Carolina is an analytics darling, not to sound like Kenny Atkinson of the Cleveland Cavaliers, but they are the analytics darlings. They, high volume of shots. Freddie Anderson is playing out of his mind. What is he, 12-1 in this year's playoffs so far with 4 shutouts, breaking Kevin Weeks' franchise record for most shutouts in the playoffs by a goalie, I think.
Yep.
How much can Freddie Anderson keep that up, especially against a team like Vegas, remains to be seen. But look, I've been doubting Carolina since the beginning, and they keep making me put my foot in my mouth. So I really don't know how I can continue to take away from what Rod Brind'Amour has done out of this team.
No, I mean, look, Rod Brind'Amour, they play, and listen to Eric Tolsky on Monday during the media availabilities and on media day. It was very interesting to hear that what he was saying about how they scout for players that fit Rod Brind'Amour's system, and sometimes you win trades, and sometimes, the trades don't work out. He basically mentioning the Mikko Rantanen trade. He was asked about that, and yeah, they're always going to be aggressive like they are on the ice. They're a very aggressive team, and they're going to be aggressive team off the ice. And it just didn't work out. But they got players, and that's a credit to their scouting staff. They got players in there that fit the system that Rod Brind'Amour plays with. And it's been a process here for 8 years that this is who they are. It's an identity. Obviously, you heard it. I asked the question to Stefan Nason when it came to the New Jersey Devils about, like, how do you overcome this mentality? And it's like Carolina. You know what their game is. No matter B, C, A, it doesn't matter. This is what they are. This is who they are. They're just going to keep playing to this identity, and they play with details. And they're a very aggressive team, but Vegas is a team that they haven't seen all playoffs, and they were preparing to play Florida or Tampa in a conference final where they were going to get pushed around. Vegas is a team that could get the puck below the blue line, below the dots, below the goal line, and they can finish their checks. Montreal didn't punish the defense enough below the goal line.
Absolutely. And I mean, Jim, just to go back to something that you said a minute ago, you said, the Mikko Rantanen trade didn't work out. Really? Did it not? I mean, they got Logan Stankoven, who has been a heck of a player for them. Now, obviously,
and more on the ice. He wasn't a Rod Brind'Amour type player. He wasn't a Carolina Hurricane. He didn't fit the system. but good on Tulski for getting the assets. Look, I think it was a win-win hockey trade for Dallas and Carolina, in my opinion. They got the assets back that they lost in the trade, so they won that. But in terms of, it didn't work out because he just never fit the system and the style of play.
No, he didn't. But they got Stanhoven, who does fit what they.
Well, how about that line, by the way? Taylor Hall, Logan Stanhoven, and Jackson Blake. How about that line?
Taylor Hall looks like it's 2018 all over again, almost.
Right?
It's ridiculous. And, I just spoke to the Devils fan club, last week. And one of the questions I got asked was, well, who knew that Taylor Hall had this left in him? Well, evidently Taylor Hall knew, and Eric Tulski knew, and Carolina knew that he had this left in him, because look at what he's been doing in this playoff. And obviously, Carolina's defense has been excellent. I mean, what did they do? They kept, in a 3-game span, I think they held Carolina to, what was it, under 45 shots on goal total in 3 straight games.
Who? Carolina held Montreal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which is a record. It's insane. It's not only that they put up a lot of shots, they suppress so much. Vegas has their work cut out for them in that regard. But you said Vegas, they're going to punish the D. They're going to punish the Carolina defense. They're going to punish the forwards. Mitch Marner is having a terrific plus. He's got to be the favorite right now, or at least the co-favorite alongside Freddie Anderson for the Conn Smythe right now. And it was Dred Wyshynski, I believe, has an article out on ESPN that just came out a couple hours ago about how Mitch Marner has alluded to that there are things that he went through, but he's not going to get into them until they win the cup. But that Jack Eichel, that he's opened up to Jack Eichel about, and Eichel has opened up to him, and Eichel then told Wyshynski that, yeah, listen, like, Marner's got some, he's got some stars from his time in Toronto. You know what? Marner has been playing like a man freed, like he just came out of prison from a 25-year sentence, knowing he was innocent. No one wanted to listen to him. He finally gets out of jail, and he goes and has the bender of a lifetime, and that's exactly what Mitch Marner is doing right now on the ice.
He is. I mean, leads the playoffs, 21.7 goals, 14 assists, and he's just unbelievable what he's doing. Big games, closeout games, game 6s, made sure Utah didn't come back, made sure Anaheim was closed out, helped be part of the 3-0 rally against Colorado in game 3. This was Mitch in Toronto, except Kelly McCrimmon said it best. Vegas' team is better. It's not like Toronto's teams were bad. Vegas is just deeper. And he doesn't have to be one guy. He doesn't have to be, okay, it was the 4 horsemen in Toronto, and that was it. In Vegas, he's part of the solution. He's part of the team. He's one of 21 guys, 20 guys on the rink, right? He's not the guy. And he can play his game, and he's having fun. Yeah, he's probably got some scars. There's a lot of scars from Toronto. But if you look at it, he was part of the problem in Toronto. The team just didn't succeed. He was a good playoff player, and now he's just taking it to new heights. Now William Karlsson's back down the middle. He's playing on the wing. Brett Howden's stepping up. Pavel Dorofeev is playing well. Vegas has a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of good depth that can match Carolina's depth. And I think the one thing we have to look at is we know Vegas's top guys are going. What about Carolina's top guns? What about their top line? They kind of show signs of life in the conference final, but they got to keep it going.
Yeah, look, Carolina's top guys have not been the reason why they've got into the cup final.
No.
Not to say that they can't be the reason that they potentially win the cup final.
No.
But they are not the reason that Carolina got to where they are. Vegas' top guys are the reason they got to where they are. And at this time of year, you're only going to go as far as your top guys are going to take you. It's great to have depth. It's great to be able to, roll 4 lines, have 3 solid defensive pairs, have 1 through 20 on the game night roster, all be in sync. It's all great to do that. You're going to go as far as the top guys on your team are going to take you. And Vegas' top guys have been doing that. And Jim, I just want to point out something that's a little odd. So you pointed out Mitch Marner leads in points with, I think you said 21 points, right?
Yeah.
How odd does it feel to see that the leading point scorer in the playoffs at the time of the Stanley Cup Final only has 21 points when after the last couple of years, I mean, Connor McDavid had 21 points by like the end of the second round.
I know, it's really it's ridiculous. That's where we're at. And I think Howden and Dorofeev each have 10 goals that lead, and Howden leads with 3 shorthanded goals. And you look at the defense. Obviously we'll have Colin coming up, and special guest coming up, Colin Stephenson, Newsday. He'll talk about some of the players that played for the Rangers, and obviously Howden's one of them. Keandre Miller's another. But you got to go between the pipes right now. How about Freddie Anderson and Carter Hart, the way they performed for both their clubs? We didn't know what to expect from Freddie Anderson. He had some demons that he had to take care of in the playoffs. A lot of people didn't think he was a playoff performer. And Carter Hart, no one really knew what to make of him this year because he hadn't played hockey for a while.
Yeah, look, Carter Hart, and I'm going to choose my words carefully here. Carter Hart has been a pleasant surprise for the Vegas Golden Knights on the ice as it pertains to being their goaltender during the season. Not so much during the regular season because he missed some time due to injury after he came back in December, but in these playoffs. John Tortorella knew Carter Hart from his time in Philadelphia, and not to say that Tortorella didn't like Adin Hill. There's no friction there at all, but he went with his guy. He anointed Hart his number 1 goalie, and Hart has been a huge reason for Vegas' on-ice success. Not talking about anything off that, just strictly on-ice success. Carter Hart has been a huge reason for it. He was better than either Blackwood or Wedgwood, the Wood brothers, so to speak, in Colorado. He was better than the goaltending in Anaheim. He was better than and all the goaltending that they've gone up against in the playoffs. Freddie Anderson, as you said, he's had his playoff demons. He's had his injury demons. No one, Freddie Anderson has played well for a short burst before. No one's saying that he hasn't. But he's been on another level right now. And it should make for a very interesting series because I believe they're 1-2 in save percentage.
Yeah, they are.
In the playoffs.
Yes, they are. Both of them are 1-2, and we're going to see the shot totals because, again, like you say, Carolina, there's limited shot totals, kept shots to the outside. And they've, again, Montreal worn out, played 14 games. Philly really wasn't a great second-round opponent. Ottawa tested them, but not much. Yeah, 2 sweeps in a 5-game series. I want to see what happens when they get punched in the mouth because Vegas have taken some pretty good shots, especially Utah in that first round when there were 3 times Utah could have put them away and they couldn't do it. I think that's why I lean Vegas in this. I just think the experience, 12 guys won a Stanley Cup before, that has to mean something, right?
Yeah, so you're going Vegas in how many games?
I think 6. I think they get it done on home ice.
I should have gone before you. I was going to also go Vegas in 6.
All right, we can both keep the same pick. That doesn't mean anything.
All right, so we're both going Vegas in 6. And Jim, I think it's about time we get to our special guest, Colin Stephenson from Newsday, who's going to help break down the Rangers, help break down some Stanley Cup Final, help give us a little insight into some other sports. And Jim, let's throw it to you. Don't even have the mug with you, but oh, wait. Do you have it?
Yo, Four Seasons sponsored today. Here you go.
Four Seasons is our unofficial sponsor for our non-existent sponsor break. Jim, we'll be back with more Blue Line Blast podcast with Colin Stephenson on the other side. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from our non-existent sponsor break. I'm Matthew Blittner. That's Jim Biringer up there, coming to us from a remote secret location. And we're joined now, of course, by our special guest of the evening, Colin Stephenson, who, by the way, Colin, this is the 1-year anniversary of you last joining the show.
Is that right?
Realize that. Yeah, this is your 1-year anniversary, so welcome back to the Blue Line Blast podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Happy anniversary to me.
Yeah. So,
And
Colin,
to us.
in honor of the anniversary, you cover the Rangers. You do such a great job for Newsday covering the Rangers, and the Rangers just won the Cup.
Yes, in fact they did.
Kitchener Rangers won the Memorial Cup.
Yes. Well, Rangers win a cup. It's all good, man. They were wearing blue jerseys with Rangers down the front. You couldn't even tell.
No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. I mean, and look, we got the Memorial Cup just wrapped up, but we got the Stanley Cup Final here going on, and we got the Vegas Golden Knights, Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, very familiar with the Hurricanes, having covered them in the Metro as the Rangers go down there a lot. What do you think this Carolina Hurricanes team can do to slow down a very physical and skillful Vegas Golden Knights team?
Wow. It's just, you know what? I mean, I have to tell you, before the playoffs started, everybody was asking me, who do you like? Who do you like? Who do you like? And, my first choice was always Colorado. And my second choice probably would have been Carolina, just because, analytically, the way they play. I mean, you know how they are. They're a shot volume team. They outshoot teams, and, the numbers, they play the percentages and stuff like that. No, they're very good at keeping guys, suppressing shots, right? I mean, taking away the middle of the ice. And at the same time, on the offensive end, they just, they cross the blue line and they let it fly. So, no, and they've been remarkably consistent over the years. And so, yeah, I would have said that, they would have been my second choice. But man, after what Vegas did to Colorado, I'm starting to rethink. I'm not sure anybody can stop Vegas right now. I mean, what do you guys think?
So I'm saying Vegas. I said Vegas was going to beat Colorado. Granted, I said they were going to beat them in 7. I didn't see a 4-game sweep. Otherwise, should have put some money down on that. But Colin, there are a few former Rangers who are having some big impacts in this series. In the Stanley Cup Final, John Tortorella, former coach, Brett Howden, former. People thought of him as a trade bust, but he's lighting the lamp quite a bit with Vegas, and Keandre Miller, who Rangers fans basically said, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out."
The hatred for Keandre Miller, I just don't get. The guy was like public enemy number 1. You would have thought. All he was a really talented guy, great skater with all kinds of gifts. And people just hate him. They just hate him. Like, even now, they'll search high and wide and far to find like that one clip of Keandre like making a mistake or getting beat and just say, "See, this guy's terrible." Meanwhile, Carolina's quite happy with him and what he's done for them and what he's going to do for them for the next, 6 or 7 years, whatever it is. It's interesting. I mean, it's one of those things. The last 2 years, I find myself, when I do watch the playoffs, and look, I don't watch a playoff game every night. I mean, I have a life. I do other things, right? But every once in a while, I'll flip on a playoff game, and I'm always interested to see what the ex-Rangers do, whether it's, Kreider and Trouba out in Anaheim or Keandre, or Brett Howden. Who'd have thought that Brett Howden would be doing what he's doing, man? I mean, the kid was he was a 4th-line center, and it never looked like he was going to get any higher than that in the lineup, and never, ever going to be anything more than that. And wow, I mean, good for him, right? I mean, why not? Go and have yourself a career, Mr. Howden.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's having a great playoff, right? 3 shorthanded goals, I believe 10 goals now in the playoffs, tied with Pavel Dorofeev. And you look at these impactful players and you look at their scouting staffs, especially for Vegas. And I like Vegas in this series too. I liked them against Colorado, and I thought they were the better team. And I said if there was a team that could beat Colorado, it was going to be Vegas. And you just look at their scouting staffs, and you notice that some of the changes going on with the Rangers as well, like up in their management department. And it's almost like they have to take a page out of what Carolina and Vegas have done, the Rangers, that is, and say, okay, we got to put an emphasis on pro scouting and amateur scouting because we can win some trades this way.
Yeah, I mean, so that's you changed the general manager. How many years ago? 5 years ago, I guess it is, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, he made some changes right away, and some changes he didn't make until a few years in. He obviously got rid of the amateur scouting, a lot of those people right away. Um, this summer, he's made some changes in the player development end of it. So he is finally, I don't say finally, but he's getting his own people in there, and we'll see, what the problem was, because I think most of us, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I know I always wondered, like, were they drafting, were they drafting poorly? Were they picking the wrong guys, or were they not developing the guys properly after they picked them? And that was always the question. And so I think he got rid of the scouting department early on, and now it looks like he's making some changes in the development department, and we'll see if that leads to any better results. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, 5 years, had some success early with the group that was left to him when he took over. Now that he's changing over the group, I want to see if Chris Drury's gonna have some success with the people that he brought in, both on the management side and on the player side. And I think that there's still a lot for him to prove there.
Yeah, you hit it right there on the head, Tom. There's so much for Chris Drury to prove, because he did inherit, as you said, quite a bit from the Gordon Davidson era, and which he was a part of, as an assistant general manager.
Yeah, he was absolutely.
But him now running the show, and he made some decent trades that helped him out, during those first couple of runs. But now he's facing a completely different animal, and yet you said he's made some changes to the personnel, but did he really? I mean, Jed Ordmeyer is gone,
Yeah,
but he promoted Ordmeyer's top lieutenant, Tanner Glass. What if the Glass was Ordmeyer's number, right hand man? What type of changes Glass gonna make?
I don't know. But he brought back, who did he bring back? Maxwell, right?
Yeah, Kevin Maxwell came back from Springfield from St. Louis.
I don't know. Like, I don't really. It's one of those things. I can't see what the scouts do. I can see what the players do on the ice, right? I mean, I can evaluate the players as much as anyone else can because we watch them do their job. I don't know what the scouts and the player development people are doing. I know that they did a bunch of stuff. Brennan Hoffman last year was telling us that they were making some changes down there in Hartford in terms of getting like skill training and stuff like that, so guys could go and work with like skill coaches and stuff, on their own, like not on their own, but sort of like outside of practice, which he thought was very good. So they are always doing stuff, new things, but we don't always see that side of it, right? So I don't know if Jed Ortmeyer was bad at his job or not, and I don't know, whether there's a pre-existing relationship between Tanner Glass and Chris Drury. I always thought there had been a relationship between Drury and Ortmeyer because he kept Ortmeyer, right? I mean, so he kept him for 5 years. So I don't know where personal relationships between people in management have anything to do with anything. I just don't know. I'm completely blind as far as how that end of it works.
Well, let's go back then to the team on the ice, because the New York Rangers had some interesting trade deadline, let's just say, because Vincent Trocheck didn't move. And, we've talked about this before, but again, you go into this offseason, you look at this roster and you say, can we compete and be a playoff team this year, or are we going to make changes? And do you see one of them changes being Vincent Trocheck?
Well, I mean, I think it always made sense on some level to trade Trocheck. I never liked the idea because I always felt like this was a guy you want more of these guys. You don't want to push this one guy out the door that you have, but at the same time, he was a commodity that you could move and get something back for. They didn't move him at the deadline, probably because they wanted back, a player who was going to be in their lineup and contributing rather than, picks or prospects that, are not a sure thing. And the idea, I suppose, by holding on to him at the deadline and then trying to move him over the summer is maybe you have more teams available. You have teams that are in different situations. A team that's trying to, to make a playoff run and is trying to acquire a player like a Trocheck or anyone else for that matter at the deadline doesn't want to give up players off its roster, right? Because you want to make a run. So if you're going to essentially rob Peter to pay Paul, all right, you're going to get Trocheck, but you're going to give up a guy who helps you somewhere else. That may not make the most sense. But in the summer, it may make it a little easier to trade a guy that maybe is in your bottom six or something, who's on the younger side that, maybe you feel like you can move that guy in the summer as opposed to around the trade deadline where you need all hands on deck. So I there is some logic to it. And that's kind of what Chris Drury sort of said in a roundabout way when he spoke to us at the deadline and when he spoke to us again on breakup day. I can't argue with that. That's probably true. Also, you have a couple more teams that you can negotiate with because you had a 12-team no trade clause that drops now to a 10-team no trade clause. So it makes some sense. So I think most of us do still expect Trocheck to be traded. Although, as I said, that one's going to hurt to see him go because I do think a gritty guy who plays both ways, who wins faceoffs and provides leadership and is best friends with your captain is a tough guy to ship out.
Yeah, it's always going to be tough when you lose a guy who's, I don't want to call him quite heart and soul, but he pretty much is, he could be the heart and soul guy of the Rangers, Vincent Trocheck. You saw how much they missed him when he was out with an injury early in the season. But, Colin, maybe they can dip into that Long Island hotbed of hockey that you were just I know it's blasphemous, people, Rangers don't touch Long Island and Long Island, stays away from the Rangers because you do have a team called the New York Islanders. But, Colin, you just did some excellent reporting on, talk to us about that hotbed of hockey that is making waves out on the island now.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And, obviously the story, as long as the story was, it could have been longer. I spoke to a lot of people. I got a lot of information. The story was much longer than that one I filed. It had to be trimmed down. But essentially it's this, right? Long Island is producing, they're noticeably producing more players than they used to, right? There was always a guy here and there. Someone pointed out, there's always been guys, the Ferraro twins and Rob Scuderi and, guys going back, right? But it just seems as, especially beginning with that, Charlie McAvoy, Adam Fox group, right? That it seems like more and more, there's more and more Long Island guys in the league, and there's more coming, right? There's always seems to be a guy at the NTDP, and there's one there now. And so we kind of dove into like, why is that? What's happening now? And I guess a couple of things, could be reasons. And number one is that, the coaching seems to be excellent at the skill, in the skill department. And also I think plain and simply, people are taking them more seriously now. I think scouts, college scouts, junior scouts, they're looking at Long Island, kids from Long Island. And part of that is because I think that the youth teams on Long Island, have beefed up their programs, their organizations. They're getting kids coming onto Long Island, where it used to be kids from Long Island had to leave and go to Jersey or New England or wherever, or go to Shattuck St. Mary's. Now you have kids coming from Minnesota to Long Island to play youth hockey because they know they're going to work with great skills coaches and stuff like that. So when you increase sort of the talent level, even if those kids aren't Long Island kids, it kind of raises the level of the Long Island kids that are playing with them. And so, like, all of that kind of works together to sort of develop, better players from Long Island. And you're going to see, I'm told, I have to be honest and fair. I'm told that, we might be coming up on a little bit of a lull, immediately after this current wave. But, those things are cyclical. And if you have infrastructure in place and if you have organization in place, it'll sustain itself. And I think, the Long Island hockey players are going to be heard from moving forward.
Well, I mean, I've seen it, been over there playing tournaments. Obviously they got the nice roller facility out there on Long Island. And obviously the Islanders practice facility out there.
Yeah, well. That's nice. I mean, and they have lots of stuff in the summer too, like Skills Works and the men's leagues. A couple of the pros, guys that are NHL players that haven't yet moved on. Like Adam Fox doesn't live on Long Island anymore, right? He lives in Connecticut now. But a lot of those guys do still live on Long Island, go back in the summers, and they work out, and younger kids work with them, and some of the younger kids play in men's leagues and stuff, and in the summer, and the quality of the hockey on Long Island is just getting better all the time, and I don't see there's rinks there. There's I don't know exactly how many rinks. I think the number I heard was about 15 rinks on Long Island. So there's ice there. There are quality coaches there, and there's talent there.
Yeah, definitely talent there. I've seen it. I mean, there's a couple of guys I played with that I still play with that are unbelievable. So, no, it's good to see the rise of hockey in different spots.
Absolutely. I mean, players are coming from everywhere, man. Like, look at Norway's getting the medal in the in the World Championships. Norway, like what? I mean, and obviously the big teams in the World Championships, they don't always have their best teams. Certainly the U.S. team was not the best U.S. team. The U.S. won the big one, obviously, in February. But, Sweden didn't have its best team. They took a young team and stuff. But still, to see a team like Norway, getting a silver medal, a medal in the World Championships is a sign that players can come from anywhere nowadays, and just it makes a scout's job harder because you got to look at more places to find good players, but at the same time it makes it maybe a little easier if you're looking for talent, that there's just more talent out there that you have access to.
Well said, Colin. And before we wrap here, you mentioned obviously the World Championship, so that's one international competition that just came to a close. There is another international competition that is going to be starting, and I know you're a big fan of it, and that's the World Cup. So give us a preview. Who do you think's going to win the World Cup? And also, while we're at it, I mean, you were promoting it on social media a bit. Knicks Spurs is a rematch 27 years in the making.
Yeah.
Who's winning the NBA final and who's winning the World Cup here?
Well, I can tell you that obviously picking the NBA final, I've only got two teams to pick from. Picking the World Cup, there's like 40 teams or something. I don't know. I mean, I've not done a ton of research. I don't know. I mean, the typical favorites for World Cup stuff, you always start with France and Brazil, and those are kind of the usual suspects, as it were. Everybody I talk to says France first, but I think that's just kind of what people say. I don't know. I mean, I think it's wide open. There's a lot more teams. There used to be 32 teams, and there's 40 teams. Now there's 48 teams. So it's wide open. I mean, Argentina won the. I don't think Argentina's going to win. I think they're old. Brazil, they haven't done much lately. So I guess I gotta go with France, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not terribly confident about it because I just feel like that's chalk. But I don't see anybody that's like jumping out to me and saying, this is an underdog that I should be getting behind. The question I would have is, how far is the U.S. going to go? Like, can the U.S. get to the quarterfinals? Which I think if they do, I think that'd be a real big success for USA Soccer. But I'm not sure they can get there. But round of 16, I would assume, and then we'll see after that, right? As far as the NBA Finals, I don't know, man. I know the Knicks have won 11 straight. They've swept 2 straight series. I know the Spurs went 7. I don't know how you can guard Victor Wembanyama. I just don't see it. Like, how do you stop that guy? I don't see it. I don't see any way for the Knicks to win this. But I know that a lot of people believe. I'm just not one of them.
There we go.
All right. That's it. I like it. Spurs, baby. Let's go. Die-hard Spurs fan since day one. Let's go.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, big Spurs fan going back. Obviously it's a hockey podcast, but obviously big Spurs guy. Tim Duncan, my guy, a big fundamental. Coach Pop, Robinson, all those guys. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But, no.
We'll see what happens. But if you got the best player, man, that guy is really something else. It's really hard for me to pick against that guy. I just although he played in the Olympics was 2 years ago now, and they lost on their home floor to the USA. But I don't know. I think he's 2 years older. Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know. I just don't see how you can beat that guy. I just don't.
Rock meet hard place.
Exactly. It's a rock and a hard place, and this is the perfect way to end it here on a Blue Line Blast podcast. Jim Biringer, Matthew Blittner, Colin Stephenson, Newsday. Guys, take care and enjoy the Stanley Cup Final.